well. I sent you an email.
I'll check. I don't remember getting it. I'll check.
Yeah, I did send that to you because we didn't have quorum last month either. We do not have any members of the public to comment, so we can move on to the next item, which is approval of meeting dates. Now, we don't have a quorum, and what happens about we don't have a quorum in terms of approving meeting dates?
So you would just set the next meeting date, and it would be a special meeting because it hasn't been filed.
Okay. All right.
But on the proposed schedule of dates, you don't have anything in February.
Mm-hmm.
So that means March would be your next meeting date, and that would be a special meeting.
Right. But if we do breakfast, if we do some sort of breakfast in February, as we had discussed, that would also be a special meeting.
That wouldn't be a meeting.
Oh, it's not a meeting?
I wasn't envisioning it that way.
I just thought if we were all in some place conducting business, it had to be considered a meeting.
So I had thought the way it was suggested to me, and you all could decide differently, was that Rex had suggested that we host a meeting for commercial property owners, and that the EDC would be invited to listen to hear what they say, but really it's more of a forum to hear their concerns and their thoughts, and you all are obviously more than welcome to attend and hear and get the benefit of what they're saying.
So we're not hosting the meeting, Rex is hosting the meeting?
The town is hosting the meeting.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Just like when you have a business breakfast or a happy hour, that's not a meeting, but you all happen to be in the same room.
Okay. So because the town calls it and we as a commission are not calling it.
Right. I mean, if you wanted to discuss business, then it would be a meeting, but
okay.
I wasn't thinking of it as a meeting.
I just, I think it's a FOIA issue, so maybe run it by...
It's the same thing as the happy hours.
Right. Well, I always am concerned, actually, so whether or not how those need to be noticed. So it would be helpful to have a firm decision on that, because we should. Because it's simply a matter of just calling it a special meeting and putting out the notice and letting the public know that it's happening.
Yeah.
Right. And somehow having some sort of minutes.
Yeah, so I'll find out if that's necessary. Because, for example, if it is necessary, we need to put out an agenda every time we have a happy hour. That things get a little
it may be, because it may be. I mean,
I'll check.
I'm not sure. Okay.
So the March date is what?
Yeah. Do you have the dates to read?
Thursday, March 28th, which does not follow the proposed schedule of the second Thursday of the month. I think maybe you had a conflict.
Yes, I did have a conflict.
The following month is Thursday, April 11th, and that does conform. Then Thursday, May 9th conforms, and then June 6th and July 30th was Tuesday.
Because it's the concert.
Those are the next things on this list.
28th, it will know.
So maybe if you can circulate that again in the next email that you send out, so everybody would have it. What do we have to do to have a special meeting in March, then on March 28th?
There's nothing more to do with it other than when I set the agenda, it says special meeting. Okay. And then during the meeting, you cannot add things to the agenda.
Yes, that I was aware.
Yeah, so that's really the only difference.
Okay. So then moving on, we have the proposed budget for next year. Everybody should have a copy of it. The major difference being that because Betsy is on salary with the town, we don't have to have a special line allocation for her services, where Tony, who was the prior person, we had to have that. And then printing and binding, why is that higher?
So the map that I am working on, hoping that this budget cover an initial print run.
Okay, great.
That's the goal of that.
Okay. Professional development. There are two line items?
Yeah,
for
so
professional-
one is professional development for conferences, and so I'm just leaving the 200 as it has been in the past in case anything relevant comes up. So for example, this past year I've been to 2 trails workshops as they relate to economic development, so that makes sense to come out of that budget.
Right.
And then the following line item, professional development, that funding would go towards the CEDIS yearly membership.
Okay, great. Got it.
And then the last line item is meeting supplies.
Okay.
And I was thinking if you all wanted to host more business breakfasts.
Right, we need more, which we used to have more in that, so, great. Excellent, but now we can't vote on it. Well, we can discuss it, though, but we won't be able to vote on it, so what happens next?
The deadline I'll submit it tomorrow.
Okay, even though we're not voting on it.
Yeah, because it has to go to the printer.
Okay, so, any questions about the proposed budget? Okay,
No.
it's pretty simple.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, not complicated at all. Okay, so.
I'm sorry, before we move on, I just wanted to, I had sent an email to you about funds left in the remaining budget, the
I must have
budget that
missed
we're
that.
in right
Okay.
now. So we still have $200 in meeting supplies. I was thinking that if you all agree to host a business breakfast meeting, we could put the $200 towards food or something like that for supplies. We've got $400 in the printing and binding line item, and with a simple line item transfer, we could also use that money to go towards the breakfast. Or, if I'm able to complete it early enough, we could use the funds towards the printing of the trails and retail map flash brochure. And lastly, there's $200 left in professional development, and I was planning to spend $150 of it to renew the CEDIS membership.
Okay,
That all sounds good to you?
yes, absolutely. When is the budget, the proposed budget start? That's
July 1.
July 1? Okay. Okay. Then moving on to the economic development plan that Betsy has been focusing on and has created for us. And it, just so those who are not aware, anybody who's listening, and other members here, Betsy, it's new to have, for the town to have a designated economic development professional. And so Betsy's been spending time trying to figure out what her purview is, and what the commission's purview is. And so that's what this is, sort of a line-by-line item. I can read it, if it will be helpful. Betsy will focus on business retention. She's going to visit businesses in town once a week and invite EDC, and also review the data that she gets from the visit. You're going to have some sort of questionnaire then?
Yeah, so at the last meeting when Cirque did the training, that's the questionnaire that I'm using. I don't think they went through it in
Right, yes, they did.
detail. It's an 8-page survey. It's quite extensive. And I've been able to visit, I think, 5 businesses so far. And it really starts some good conversations. So I've been getting some good information and hearing good feedback from people that I think once we have a lot more data, I think it'll be very useful to help determine what sort of things many of our businesses need and want and where we can focus our efforts.
Okay, excellent. And then you will write letters from Beth to the businesses a few times a year, and then write business stories for the press, which I think you've been doing all along.
Sporadically, yeah. So we
yeah.
had a new nail salon open up in the former bakery. I visited them a couple weeks ago and just recently submitted a story about their opening to the press to help drum up some interest from the public.
Okay. We're going to focus on the Plattus plan with respect to Selden, Starbucks, and Bank Street, to identify and use resources and tools to improve the area, meet with major landowners, and create a town commercial center plan for grants. Have you identified any grant at this point that you think you're going to apply for?
I have not, but there is a state grant that evaporated recently, and I'm hoping that under the new administration it might resurface. And what has prevented us in the past from applying for that grant is we need a town commercial center plan, which outlines all of our goals.
Okay.
And so once we've got something like that, assuming that grant comes back, I mean, I think there's a lot of use for having a plan like this anyways, but that would allow us to apply for that state grant.
And is that, I know the Main Street, Connecticut Main Street, is that a separate grant program?
I believe so.
Okay. I think that's run by the utilities.
Yeah, so this is a separate program.
And then under physical improvements, create donation program for wayfinding signs. If we can stop there. I did identify a business that was interested. What is the time frame for proceeding with that?
Well, I think it would probably be, before we reach out to people, I'd like to start talking about the pricing for the grants, and for the signs, and do we ask people for the full dollar amount? Do we do a match with the town? I feel like some of the pricing is a lot to ask, but maybe you all disagree, and maybe a business owner would think it's not a lot of money. So I think I'd like to have a sense of what we're asking for before we start asking.
Okay. So are you?
So it really depends on the size of the sign.
Right.
The most expensive one is $25,000.
Okay.
To me, that feels steep, but maybe it's not.
Spectrum,
Some of the much smaller ones that we probably wouldn't ask for business sponsors are like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
okay.
I would say maybe the $15,000 range is the most common price.
And that would seem to be a large enough expense that would rule out a lot of like a nail business would never.
Right.
So only the largest employers in town would be able.
And this is renewed every year.
No, so this would be
it's
the
one
cost to have the sign fabricated. And then the sign would be installed. And
Within that $25,000 budget?
I would need to revisit this, but I think town staff could do the installation. But the fabrication cost itself
And then
is
if
$25,000.
If the sign needs to be replaced, you have to do another fabrication for another $25,000.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that wouldn't happen very frequently.
Right.
But
Do we know what the useful life of the sign?
I haven't looked at the document in quite a long time, so I don't know if it outlines that or not.
Okay. I would say, I mean, knowing this one business, it does a lot of advertising in the region. I'd say let's approach them and see if they're willing to spend $25,000. And then, I mean, I think it'd be best to know what our fallback plan is. Because I think, I mean, they may try to negotiate.
And presumably they get some kind of advertisement too, right?
Right, so I mean, that's the other thing we need to talk about. What are we offering them in exchange? Do they get their name on the sign? Do they get their name on the sign if they pay 100%, but not if they pay 50%? And so these are the sort of things that I think it would be useful to have hammered out before we're talking to people, so that they're not necessarily driving the conversation of how the program will work.
Okay. I think they need their name on the sign.
Well, certainly, if you're paying the full
I think
100%.
regardless if they're paying anything, they need their name on the sign.
So then the question for me is, let's say there's 4 businesses paying for one sign. Do we put 4, like, in physically, how do we do that?
I
It's
don't
like
know
those are
that
things I'm
anybody's
thinking
going to
of.
want to share. That's my just general sense, that people don't. I mean, you know, the signs, at least that I've seen around the region, are, you know, paid for by X, Y, and Z corporation.
Right, I've never seen
Yeah, right,
that.
sorry, one. Yeah, just one corporation, sorry. So, X corporation. So, I don't think we need to, my guess is we don't need to think about the shared sign scenario, because people really, businesses really want.
At the sign,
They want to be a sponsor.
If you can afford the $25,000, you'll get the $25,000 one. If you can only afford the $10,000 one, you'll buy the $10,000 one. So
Okay.
Placement is probably the biggest,
What?
placement is probably the biggest issue
Right, no, I mean, I think it's,
for the
the,
pricing.
right, the sign, the bigger sign should be in the bigger, the best location.
Well, it
So I
is, and
think-
that's why it's so big.
Right, right.
So these would be signs like to find, it wouldn't direct to the corporation, it would just be to find various.
Welcome to Woodbridge,
Yeah, okay,
right? I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and then,
But it says wayfinding signs, so it's,
yeah, so we have a whole program that was done in 2016, I think. I can share the plan with the commission. And it has a few different phases outlined, and the first phase is really just having these signs at the town borders. So, for example, when you come off of Route 15 and you see the sign that says "Welcome to New Haven," and then you see the DOT sign pointing towards New Haven that says "Food is in New Haven," "The hospital's in New Haven," "Gas is in New
Right.
Haven," the gas station's right there. The phone is, like, according to the sign, nothing is in Woodbridge, and why bother making a left?
right.
And so our sign would say, "Welcome to Woodbridge," and kind of, because there's also a lot of confusion in that area, what's Woodbridge, what's New
Right.
Haven. And so that would just sort of define our borders and try to be a friendly, welcoming face. And later on, we would have signs at sort of the entry to the business district, letting people know they're in the business district. And even further on in the plan, there are signs pointing people in the direction of the industrial park or different areas like that, but not to any one specific business.
Okay.
Try and guide people
Right.
a little bit.
I think it would be helpful if we just identify, prioritize the 3 or 4 most important signs.
And I've done
Okay,
that,
And
yeah.
so, and then let's just start there with pricing for those.
Yeah, and I've got that all
Okay.
identified.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if you can, once you price that out, I mean, I think businesses, or at least one business in particular, is ready to go for it.
Okay.
So maybe we can revisit that at the March meeting.
Yeah, that one particular sign, the $25,000 one, is the one at the exit 59.
Mhm.
And the location is problematic because there are so many other signs there. So,
You're talking the south exit or the north exit then? They're coming off.
south. So when you're coming,
Coming south, coming
From Hamden south.
from Hampton.
Hampton.
Yeah.
so if you're sitting there at the stoplight, there's across the street from you where the sign would go.
On the
there's-
Katz's side of
Yeah.
No, I think it wouldn't.
Yeah.
be
on the
Bridge.
gas station
The
side.
gas station
gas
side.
station side.
Yeah. 'cause
Which is
so you'd be
complicated
facing it.
because there are a lot of other things there. There's the Welcome to New Haven sign, there's the DOT sign, there's the gas station sign, and there's the stoplight. And things are moving a little bit also now with the DOT plan that they're doing right now. So I've asked the DOT if they could move their signs a little bit, and I've asked New Haven to move their signs a little bit.
Is the New Haven sign actually in Woodbridge, or is it in New Haven?
It's in New Haven, so there's like this much of Woodbridge right there.
Okay, right.
So we're dependent on the kindness of others.
Okay.
To accommodate space for us. So
And
that
on
one
the
is
other
the,
side, we can't touch that, correct?
What do
It's
you,
all
what do you mean on the other side?
The other side of the bridge where the hotel is or whatever.
Yeah,
Right,
oh,
that's all New
That's
Haven.
all New Haven.
That's all New Haven, so you can't
Yeah.
touch that.
yeah. I think actually the stoplight, where the foot of the stoplight is, I think that's the border. So
The-
everything
Okay,
to the right
the
of that.
stoplight where the gas station is.
Yes.
Right after Starbucks.
So to get a sign there and get that sign changed that says all the food and everything is to the right and nothing to the left, that's a DOT sign.
Correct.
And so we should be able to
Ask them to change
ask them to
that.
change the sign.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so
Are we doing that?
I've asked them to move it and update it. I'm sure they're probably waiting, and they're putting a sidewalk in there as well to add to the complicated nature of this particular location. So I assume and hope that they're moving that when they do the other work in that area.
But you
this
haven't
spring.
gotten any acknowledgement from them to say,
I did a few months ago, but the project has been silent now because of the weather, so I'm going to revisit that with them before springtime starts. But my hunch is that they haven't done anything yet because there's other things that need to be done in that particular area.
While we're on the topic, what is the update on where they are? Do you know where they are with the construction? Is it all silent now? 'Cause
I think, but no, they don't update me on a regular basis.
Okay.
But my hunch is that they're not doing anything right now because it's the winter and they'll restart up in the spring.
Okay, moving on. We've discussed searching for town commercial center grants, but that, you have that under physical improvements. So is there anything in particular you're focusing on?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. And what's a complete streets committee? What's that?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
So the Complete Streets movement, I guess, is a concept for towns to come up with a plan to make streets complete, so that they're not just serving people in cars. The idea is trying to find ways to make design improvements so that the streets are safer for pedestrians, cyclists, people with disabilities, people who are riding the bus. And the town has a very informal team. We had our second meeting today, and we are planning on having further meetings the second Thursday of the month at noon here in this room. So anyone who's interested in this type of thing is welcome to come, and we'd love to hear their input. And I'm thinking of this particularly how it relates to the business district, where we've got people walking around, could be people cycling, and trying to make it safer and more inviting and enticing, so that if you're parked at business A, instead of getting in your car and leaving town, you'll walk down the street and go to business B and continue spending time in Woodbridge. So that's the concept behind that.
Okay. Great. Are there any constituencies you're expecting to turn out at these meetings, or?
Well, like I said, we've only had 2 so far.
Okay, so is there like the bicyclists and the hikers, and, or is it?
So it's not really hiking, it's not really about the trails, but it's, I've been in touch with Kurt at the bike store, and he's interested. He was unavailable today. I've been in touch with, I've let Chris Dickerson know at the running store, spoken with Rob Leonard at the brewery. I'm hoping to get some of our larger employers, thinking that maybe some of their employees either walk to or from work, maybe they take the bus, maybe they walk on their lunch hour. So, I mean, anybody can be a pedestrian, right?
Yeah.
So I think all of us have some level of interest in this. So, you know, just definitely want to hear from people who are interested in this sort of thing.
Okay. Great. And the next item is to implement RSA recommendations.
That's the road safety audit or analysis that we did a few years ago. And some of those things are relatively easy, and some of them are more complicated, like trying to get the DOT to put in crosswalks with crosswalk buttons that function to make it safer down in the business district.
Okay, and investigate shared parking.
Yeah, so this is something I've heard informally from businesses, that if we had shared parking, maybe we would be able to use parking lots for other things, like businesses, or just on the list of things to look into and think about. Might not go anywhere, it might be useful.
Okay. Investigate shelters and signs at bus stops.
So right now, as you probably know, there are bus stops in town, but there's no way to know that there's a bus stop there, because there's no sign.
It's always very curious.
There's no bus shelter. There's no way that I can tell to know the bus schedule. And in terrible weather, you're standing outside in the rain and hoping you haven't missed the bus.
So do other towns have bus stop signs?
Yes.
We just were sort of overlooked on that when they brought the route up at me, right?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So I've asked for advice on how to move forward with this, and I haven't.
And is that a
heard back.
DOT issue as well?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I
Okay.
don't know enough about it.
Okay.
So another bus goes up Amity Road to the JCC.
Yes.
Does it stop between, I guess it's a supermarket or the shopping center
I've seen it stop.
and in between the JCC? Are there
Yes,
multiple
so
stops?
I think there are a couple different lines, but the one that I've seen comes up 69, takes a left at Lucy, and it stops on Lucy. I've been told that's an informal stop, that it's not an actual
Really?
stop, but it's a stop of convenience for somebody who's on the bus. And then it comes down and takes a right on Amity, and then it stops again at Bradley, so right in front of the Willows. And then it goes up to the JCC, loops around and comes back down.
And then I think it stops across from, like in front of Wells Fargo on the way down. I've seen it stop there. I don't know
Yeah,
if
right across
yeah,
from the Willows.
Yeah, I
there.
don't know if
Mhm.
that's an official stop, but I see people, waiting there occasionally.
Yeah.
So out of convenience or you ask the bus driver to stop? I mean,
It's not clear to me.
okay.
It's just what, a total of 4 or 5 stops for the bus?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I know a couple of years ago, you all had been trying to investigate getting more frequent or more stops in town. And I know it was very difficult to try and figure out how many stops there actually were and how many lines there were. And the schedule was not complete on, I mean, it was like pulling teeth. And I imagine if you're a bus rider, it's got to be very frustrating.
Yeah.
Right, and I still think while you're investigating that, if you can ask, because our business district did say that would they have, the office park, said they have people walking a half a mile to almost a mile from the bus stop, because the last bus stop I think is actually at Lucy Street coming up, and so some of the businesses on Lunar Drive and Research Drive have employees that take the bus.
Sure.
So they're taking the bus and then they're walking another mile on sidewalk streets. So if while you're having the conversation, maybe if we could so the goal was.
How do you expand it to?
To bring it up to
maybe
Bradley
Easy
Road.
Street
Well,
or Bradley Road.
So the issue is, I think the bus line was brought up to Woodbridge when the JCC was open. At that point, Bradley Road could not accommodate a bus. I don't recall what Bradley Road was like, but I know it was not a great, but with the hill and it was a narrow road, it wasn't suitable for a bus. Now 10 years ago at least, they widened Bradley Road, and so maybe more than 10 years actually. So it would be great if the bus could go up Bradley Road, because actually we have a lot of employees there in town between 286 Amity, between the Big Yellow House, I'm not sure what it's called now. It was Laurel Gardens. When Howard's grandmother lived there, we called it the Big Yellow House. It has changed names 17 times. And then the Woodbridge Office Park is also there. So there are a lot of people who could use the bus stop there. So anyway, while you're asking these questions, if you can investigate the route change. I know at the time we had to do some sort of survey.
Yeah, because I wasn't really involved at the time, but I do remember the bus company saying something along the lines of they need a certain amount of capacity to add or change things, and whatever we were able to gather didn't meet their standards.
Right. Okay. And while we're on the subject of Bradley Road, investigate a stoplight at Bradley Road.
Yeah, this is something we've asked the DOT for a couple times, and they've consistently said no. But we've heard from businesses in the area that having a stoplight at that intersection would be very helpful for folks, because it's...
Amity Road.
Bradley and Amity.
Yes, yeah, because it's difficult for people coming out of Amity or trying to make, coming down the hill, trying to make a left onto Bradley. And the DOT's concern is that if you're putting a stoplight there near the end of the hill, it's a sightline problem, and people coming down the hill don't necessarily know that there's a stoplight there, and their concern is that it would create more accidents.
And isn't that when they put a flashing light a little higher, like they do on
Right?
34?
I mean, we can't be the only town in Connecticut that wants
Yeah.
or has a stoplight at the bottom of the hill. So.
Okay. Maybe with the new administration. Do we know who the new DOT commissioner is?
I have not heard.
Okay. And then trails.
Yeah, so we are currently without a trail master. I think I sent you all an email about this a couple weeks ago. And so I'm working on a plan to maintain and market the trails and make sure that they are in good condition and continue to be in good condition, because I think a lot of people come to town to walk the trails. And so this map that I mentioned before is hopefully something that will help us. It would be a map of the entire town showing all the trails, how they connect to other towns and things of interest. And I'd like some advice from you all in the near future, to talk about what sort of businesses should be on this map as well. And I'm thinking it would be great to have something like this at the brewery or the vineyard, the bike shop, other places that are destinations in town, so that when you're here for maybe the one or two things that you come to Woodbridge for, you can then learn about all the other things that the town has to offer.
Right. Well, can we have really any business that is a business to consumer business? So using Google Maps, can we sort of have an enlarged section and show those businesses?
Yeah, I mean, my goal would be to put, so the town will be an entire town map. I was thinking maybe, because everything would be basically in the same area, having maybe a listing or an enlarged map on the other side of the trail map.
Or perhaps it's, that part of it's electronic. So can we host the map, which is something that gets back to something we did years ago. Can we host the map, hi Jamie, can we host a more detailed map on the website that would show the trail map and then the businesses as well?
Yeah, I mean, we can think about what the format is going to be.
If it's too much to put on
But I
paper.
even think just like a simple listing with maybe an address and, I don't know.
I'm very visual, so.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about like if you're at the brewery and you think, oh, I'm hungry or I'm already here, what else can I do in town before I get on the highway? They're not necessarily going to go online, but if there's a brochure right there at the brewery, they might say, oh, I didn't know there's a couple restaurants close by, and maybe that would motivate them to stick around in town. So that's the theory.
I think yes to both. I think there's the need. It would be interesting to have both. And I think the problem is if we select the businesses that go on the map, that becomes problematic.
Somebody has to select them.
No, I'm saying, so I would be over-inclusive and say any business to consumer who wants to be on the map, we give them an opt-in.
Well,
It comes back.
So that's certainly an option. I was thinking also just talking about categories, like maybe it's all restaurant and retail business. Because I was a little worried about where do you draw the line. If we include some service businesses, where do you draw the line? Do you include Monroe Muffler and all the nail salons and all the yoga studios? It's like after a while the list becomes so exhaustive.
I'd be curious. I'm not sure if the actual business to consumer businesses in town, I'm not sure it's that exhaustive.
But for example, would we list Monroe Muffler on there? Like I would be worried about including one type of business but not another.
And that's why if it's so maybe not on the printed version. I don't know. So
this is where I need some advice.
Right. So I would be over inclusive, and I'm thinking more electronic, where you'd be able to see it. But certainly to say that if you're doing a list of businesses, to say that Monroe Muffler is here and the 3 banks are here.
Well, we do have the online. Not come up with the proper name right now, but the online business directory.
Index, right. But to have it as a map, I think it would be really helpful. And with Google Maps now, I think it's pretty easy take that information and transpose it. But we can also just give the businesses opt-ins, so we don't make the decision. And we send out a mailer, which they may ignore, and say, do you want to be part of this? Or when you visit them, or we visit them, we say, we're going to be doing this, would you want your business listed? Because I think any business consumer is looking to market, regardless of the category.
This is at no charge to the business?
I would think it would be a service. Well, they could have, we can do sponsorships where they can be highlighted.
Yeah, I was not anticipating charging to be listed, but maybe we want to do some sort of advertising to help defray the printing costs.
But there are businesses out there that do maps for
right, like the Mailer map.
I'm sorry?
The Mailer map. That's the big town map.
No, this is just like in the business district of.
Yeah, no, there are like some pretty maps.
Oh yeah, I know what kind of maps you're talking about. Yeah.
And people buy into it or not.
Right. Well, my concern was, let's say business A doesn't want to buy an ad. I was thinking of this more of a service and not a business. Like those maps that you're talking about are a business. So I wanted to make sure that all of our businesses that we decide makes sense to be on this map are included, whether or not they decide to buy an ad.
So think this through. How is it going to be distributed?
So it'll be online, but it'll also be at our businesses that are listed on the map. So it would be at the brewery, it'd be at the vineyard, it'd be at all of our restaurants, it would be at our retail shops, so that if you're already at that, the way that I'm envisioning this is that if you're already at the right approach, obviously you know the Red Barn is there because it's just 2 doors down, but maybe you don't know that there are 2 other women's clothing stores in town. Or maybe you don't know there's a vineyard in town. So I'm trying to think of ways to promote our businesses to customers who are already customers of a business or restaurant in town.
So does your budget include a way of displaying this? So it's not just sitting on a table like...
I hadn't thought about that, but that's why I need all of your advice.
So if there are these businesses that are already doing this, I don't know that our town meets the criteria and how that's done, but perhaps investigate and see if we want to privatize it. And
the other point is the reason I'm doing this is because I'm creating a map of all of our trails.
Right, but in conjunction with that, maybe reach out to the ones that do the pretty maps that you get. And I don't know that they would be willing that they would see the profit in our town in doing it, but if they do, then maybe it's 2 maps, and it's the trail map and then this as well. I don't know. But I think for you to talk to a company that's been doing this professionally, you might be able to get some ideas. Because I don't think I'm sure that some of the towns in the Berkshires that have this done, they probably list trails as well.
Okay.
And then if they're the ones who drive it, but meeting the town's criteria, then it takes the burden off of you, and they go to the businesses and figure out which businesses are included, and how to distribute it. But I think it would be helpful to have the trail maps as well as whatever it is, to have it online, so that when you click through, because I think I'm getting to the point where I really personally dislike paper, and I really am very much more into seeing things on a screen.
Yeah, and I think there's 2 kinds of visitors, right? There's the anticipatory visitor who's looking at Woodbridge saying, should I go there? What's there? And then there's the person who's already here.
Right. But even so, I would look at a piece of paper for 2 seconds, but I would look at something online for much longer. So, but I think there's market for both. So, great. I'm so glad you're doing this. Thank you. So now I see you have the next thing is your work with the EDC. Monthly meetings with Jamie and me, or the quarterly meetings, or is that separate?
That's separate.
Okay. So you're going to have monthly meetings with us, and then come to our commission meetings. And you take the minutes and are responsible for the filing. Excellent. And then you're going to engage with the regional and state partnerships, RECs, the Greater New Haven.
Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. And then the Valley Chamber, which is separate.
Right, we're kind of in this awkward physical location where some of our businesses are members of the New Haven Chamber, some are members of the Valley, and so I think it's a good, bad thing for us because we get to take advantage of both of their programs, but it's bad because we don't have enough members in either chamber to really get their full attention.
With the Greater New Haven Chamber, I'm on the Economic Development Commission over there.
Okay.
I've been attending their meetings since the fall, and they're really good. We had a meeting yesterday morning. Yeah, and so last month there was an update on a region in New Haven that was really good. It was interesting because it was a focus on the Fairhaven part of town and what they're doing specifically to help drive traffic to that part of the city, and the community outreach and everything they're doing. And then yesterday's was about some work that I'm involved in some manufacturing programs, as well as the West Haven Economic Development Director showed up. So it's a really good meeting. So if you can plan to attend those.
It was on my calendar for yesterday,
Okay.
but something else came up.
Because they all the regional, Ginny's there from Rex, all of the town economic development coordinators there. I started going on behalf of this group here, still going with my Woodbridge hat on, but also my New Haven Manufacturers Association hat on, because a lot of the various associations are represented there. So really, really good regional gathering of folks and great information that comes out of those meetings. Good. A lot of good ideas too.
Great, and then there's also DECD, which is Department of Economic Community Development of the state. And I also see that Susan Beiswitz's office, she's now Lieutenant Governor, and she seems to have been given the baton to lead the charge on regionalization of businesses, or business development. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of her office. I think Jimmy Tickey's is in charge of that. Mm-hmm. So there may be some more things at the state level that we can hook into, because I do think regionalization is key to growth. Mm-hmm. And now we will focus on the Economic Development Commission, business retention, and you'll help to identify who to visit. Are we going to continue to have businesses come visit?
I think that's up to you guys.
Okay.
Has it been useful? Do you feel like the commission's getting?
I think it's useful. I think that people really enjoy listening to, watching our show. Like literally, people have come up to me and they watch, and we give the business free promotion to town. So I think as you go around and visit, as we go around and visit businesses, I think one of the questions on the questionnaire should be: do you want to? Would you be willing to come? Spend 15 minutes with the commission on a Thursday night, and broadcast what your business does to
It's
town.
been nothing but positive, I think, since we've been doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the conversations have been good, the guests have been engaged. I mean, I've only had one out of all the ones that only two, and we've had over 50 or something since we started this program that said no, and I don't think they understood the value. But anybody who gets the value, which is 48 other companies, have all enjoyed it. And to your point, Jody, they have been engaged, and they get extra publicity out of it too. So I'm a big proponent of continuing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we have in the past, just so you know, Jamie was really mostly involved in scheduling it. We often tried to have two, knowing that we all often ended up with only one. And if we did end up with two, then we just spent an extra 15 minutes speaking to the second business. But there's often cancellations, and so, and it's pretty easy and benign. And we always put them up at the beginning, so they don't have to sit through the whole meeting unless they want to.
Yeah, I just stopped doing it as we were transitioning with the CERT thing, and with you coming on board, I just stopped doing it, but, you know, it'd be great if you do that.
Okay.
You know, as I find leads, or any of us find leads, we'll just send them to you.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I have a new neighbor moving in next to me, and, you know, they might be somebody of interest.
Okay.
The engineering firm that's moving from Milford, and they're also supposed to be doing some sort of manufacturing. I don't fully understand, but they closed in May. They hadn't done anything all summer, and then all of a sudden, around September, all of a sudden, all this activity, and it's been 4 or 5 months of construction, and they haven't moved in yet or anything. It's been exterior renovations, interior renovations, so they're doing a complete makeover. The building looks completely different. You won't even recognize it.
Really?
Where's the building?
Right next to me, on Lunar Drive.
Okay.
And so it's about 10,000 square foot building, so they're, will be moving in shortly, I imagine.
And the only criteria for that is that they run a business or have a business in the town of Woodbridge. So they can be a real estate company, an accountant, insurance guy,
We've had everybody and
Yep.
anyone.
home-based.
Absolutely.
Yeah, anything. Initially, we weren't thinking home-based, but we, at one point, attended an economic development conference that said you actually should be looking to your home businesses because those are the ones that are most likely to expand in your town. And so we shouldn't discriminate against them. So really anybody who wants to come in, and anybody who's listening who wants to present, Betsy works at Town Hall, Betsy Agla, contact her and you can be featured here and we can discuss your business with you. We have, well, once after the business visits, moving on, we'll review the aggregate data from visits, create procedure for which businesses to feature in news stories. How is that determined now?
It's just willy-nilly.
Okay. Does there need to be a procedure? I mean,
Well, I feel a little weird about it because it's easier for me to go to the new businesses because that's new.
sure.
But why, then I feel like I'm discriminating against someone who's
Sure.
been here for 20 or 30 years. And so if there's some guidelines that you all would like to suggest, it would make me feel more comfortable about
Okay.
doing that.
Do we know what other towns do or other municipalities do?
I could check in with Hamden. They've been doing a lot of stories about businesses.
Yeah, I mean, if there's some sort of best practices that we can adopt, that would be great. If not, we can try to figure out what those best practices are, but.
I think some of it's when that's why I find out about it, when there's an activity. Are they growing, are they expanding? You know, you obviously if we see something in the news that's bigger than Woodbridge, if it's in the Register, they're having the anniversary, they're, you know, any sort of activity that rises them up to any level of attention. That's how they come across my desk, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, this is a company I haven't heard of, this is a company we should, you know, call up or, you know, email. So, yeah, that's sort of been what I've been using as a rule of thumb, because there are, you know, a fair amount of businesses in town. We can't reach them all, but,
Of course
you
not,
know,
yeah.
if there's something going on, then that's a reason. Or the themes. I mean, we've talked about the theme-based meetings where, you know, it's all around one thing. You mentioned the realtors, Ken, you know, if it's, you know, invite all the commercial realtors to one meeting, or, you know, residential realtors to another meeting, or have a monthly focus on that where you go out and visit, you know, restaurants, or we, you know, with around the restaurant week concept that we tried before. And those are the only ones that have not been as easily accessible to come to the meetings because they're on a Thursday night and they're working at the restaurants, and Thursday night's usually a busy night for them. So that's one we haven't had success in tapping into.
But I think we're thinking more about how does Betsy determine which businesses she's going to promote in a news piece?
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's,
Yeah.
it is, I mean, it has been random, other
Right.
than unless there's some activity
But I
that's
think
going on.
but if there are changes going on in a business, then I think that's the easy pickup.
Of course, yeah, that's the easy news hook.
Right.
And yeah, and so I haven't heard about many of those. And so other than that, it's been very random, and it makes
Right.
me feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So yeah, let us know if you find out from Hamden if there's any sort of best practices that we can implement. Because I understand your concern, because why should the new business get more promotion than the business that's been here quietly,
Right.
you know, plodding along for 20 years? For sure. And host business sector meetings, a la Farmers Forum. Are you envisioning that as the breakfast?
Well, I'm throwing this out there. This is something that Ellen Skalatar and I tried, and we didn't have a lot of success. Hamden does it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think maybe it depends on the sector. We tried, one time we tried to have a meeting with medical professionals. And the theory is that these people are all in a similar type of business and they're probably all dealing with similar issues. And is there something we can do to address those issues? You know, we had two people come and they didn't come at the same time. So the value would have been for them to be able to talk to each other, but they missed each other. And so I'm just kind of throwing this out there. We've tried it in the past, it didn't work, but maybe there's something that we could do differently that would make it work. Or maybe it's something that you all don't think is worth our time. I'm not sure.
I think that the happy hours were pretty successful. I just don't know there's a critical mass.
Well, I think that's part of the difficulty.
You know, to have a sector meeting.
We can cross that
Sector
one
gathering.
off.
What?
We can cross that one up.
Yeah.
Well, the realtors, I know, like, again, the commercial realtors, I attended that one meeting they did over at Mazzaro, and there was a lot of them there at that meeting, and it almost seems like they're looking for reasons to get together, and, you know, that would be one that we might want to host, you know, be the facilitator for that, to come to one of these meetings, because, again, they were all at Mazzaro, they toured the farm, they had their meeting, and, you know, that's how we reconnected with the farm over there, so, you know, maybe that's one to try. You know, they're not all going to be. The medical professionals didn't work. Commercial realtors, you know, maybe you know, it's a reason to bring them together. But I do agree. I think those, and everybody I talked to that went to the business after hours enjoyed them. And I think that's something that we should really think about, you know, at least doing twice a year. I mean, that should be a regular, if not 3 times a year. We have enough interest, enough synergy, enough reason to, you know, bring the business community together. If nothing else, to have networking.
So that's the next item on the
Oh, sorry.
plan. Good segue, Jamie. So what I have on here is I'm not sure what the capacity is or the interest level from the business community. I'm not sure if we should be doing breakfasts and happy hours or focusing on the happy hours.
I personally think the happy hours have been the most successful.
So I think they both are. I think the breakfasts have to have a purpose and a topic, and those can be towards one sector, like the commercial property owners or the commercial realtors, or something that we're trying to work through or to talk to. I mean, you have to have a reason for it. But the happy hours really just can be happy, and more of a gathering to create a sense of community.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been, I mean, those breakfast ones, again, I mean, they've been hard. You know, we've tried, we thought we had great, you know, themes, and then nobody shows up again. And
No, well, breakfast ones, we've always had really good turnout.
well, I was thinking the cyber one, you know, that one, Yaron put a lot of effort into
And
that
it was, the
thing.
presentation was amazing.
Yeah.
And there were like 6 people
Yeah.
there. It was- Yeah.
So that was sort of like a bummer, you know, especially with all the, I mean, like you said, it was a quality event. So that was unfortunate, but.
So later on the agenda, we've got a topic for discussing business breakfast. So, but it sounds like there's definitely an interest in doing happy hours.
No, I agree. Maybe
And I think business, and I think we actually, I disagree. I think the Yaron one we had in a big room, but there were probably 15 to 20 people there. No?
There were
I
like
thought there
6 of us, including you and I.
I thought there were more. Maybe it was a different meeting with a lot, but we've had the talking
Finger, that one was a hit. There were
Yes.
probably 40 or 50 people there.
Right. So maybe that's what I'm thinking about. So
it's totally hit or miss because both of those presentations were very high quality,
right.
local experts in their field, really know their stuff, and you know, who knows what happened.
Okay, but we have had success
I
with
mean,
it.
some of it is also the cadence, the consistency of doing it too. And, having that regular, if it's, whenever, people know that it's gonna be the second Tuesday of, whatever, and they put it on their calendar and they know we're gonna do it, there's definitely value to that as well. I'm thinking of, do we have a breakfast place in town that we can have, monthly meetings at? I think there's only Las Brasas, it's the only breakfast place that's left.
Yeah.
Just to have food as part of it.
Right. Or the JCC can do it.
No, they have food there now, yeah, that's
Right.
true.
So I think we shouldn't be, I think we have had success in the past. We don't know what happened, why your own was not successful, perhaps we didn't publicize it well. I don't really remember what the issues were, but we should continue.
I know we did all the same things that we did the previous year, because the previous year for the Talking Finger one, it was great, and we thought, oh, well, we'll just replicate this, and
Okay.
something went wrong.
Okay, well, I think if we have a good topic and we're targeting it, we can just try. I do think that for when we have the signage, when we have the numbers for the signage, I think that would be a topic to try to engage people. And to try, to open up to a discussion about signage and to show what it's going to be, might be a nice way to try. To get people in the room who might be interested.
Or do it at a happy hour, like we did at Saloon, I think it was, where you brought the
and we had the
posters and
samples.
stuff. Yeah, that was well received.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we just visit. Yes to both. We just see what happens.
Plan a spring and fall happy hour and business breakfast as themes evolve, maybe. Spring and fall with the business after hours are good. The summertime, it's, people aren't here.
Right.
Wintertime, a lot of holidays and weather delays. So at least if we can say we do a spring and fall one, at least we know those are two fixed events. And we're talking to somebody in town, yep, we have the spring one coming up, or it's in the summertime, we have the fall one coming up. Come to our happy hour thing.
Okay. So, I think spring and fall would be great for happy hours. Do we want to figure out do we have any venue that we know would want to host it in town?
I was actually just at the bowling alley the other day.
Oh, that's interesting.
And if you consider June to be spring, people start getting distracted then. Her business drops off a lot in the spring. Their bowling leagues run through the end of May, I think, and she would have capacity to have us in there at the bar in June.
Oh,
That's interesting.
I think that would be great.
So I think a lot of people don't know there's a bar in there and they serve food.
Yeah, I think that'd be
I
great.
could reach out to her about that.
If early June though.
Right, yeah, I think people start getting distracted very quickly in June.
Moving on to the Platus report, the EDC will focus on researching tax incentives, SSD,
Special Services District.
Special Services Business Improvement Districts, and TIF, which is Tax Incremental Financing, to determine best tool to improve area. Will you be able to help us with that?
Yeah, and actually CERC gave me a summary of all sorts of different tools, so I could bring that to the March meeting and we could discuss what sort of things might make sense for us.
I think that would be also interesting, again, if we had folks from did we do this already, where we had somebody from Westville, whatever they have in Westville, come and talk to us about how that works?
That was one of my very first meetings.
Okay,
So that would have been 2014.
Okay. Well, maybe revisit that, have a meeting around that where we bring somebody who has implemented each of these three, so we can, really understand, or whichever is the most popular one in the state.
Well,
bring
they're
somebody in.
different. So the TIF is a whole different ballgame, because that's tax incremental financing, and that's about taking an area and making basically a lockbox for increase in in assessed value. And any increase in revenue goes into a special fund that then can only be used within a certain geographic area. So that's
It's not quite an incentive.
That's town-driven versus the other ones, really, we need buy-in from property owners. So, but I actually think that the TIF would be a great thing to do. But we need town buy-in on that. And moving on, physical improvements, identifying potential donors for wayfinding signs, we've discussed that already this evening. Work with businesses and TPZ to find a solution to A-frames and other issues. A-frames being signage.
Right, and I meant to put in other signage issues.
Okay.
And
So does the new non-zoning plan changes, do they even touch signage?
I don't think so.
I think we just keep it on the agenda and keep coming back to it year after year.
Well, I think this might be a topic of great interest among the business community if you wanted to have a business breakfast to get opinions from people.
So, one of the first breakfasts that was done after the town implemented their signage regulations that did not have any input from businesses. And it was a screaming match, to put it mildly.
Yeah, the business district is gonna say we want A-frames, and how do we do that?
And how can you dare tell me I can't put,
What's the issue with A-frames?
Town doesn't like them, the businesses do.
And these are the
Town
A-frames that
use
we're
it,
talking about that sit on
yeah.
the sidewalk?
yeah.
Yeah.
Or sit, the realtor signs, sort of, that type of.
Well, they're the ones, so for example, a lot of the businesses on Selden put them out at the corner of Bank and Amity, because if you're on Amity, you can't see back to Selden. So if you don't know what's back there, you just can't see it from the road. So a lot of them will put their A-frames on that corner there. So there's like, at any given time, 4 or 5 or 6 signs there.
And the town's selective in enforcement, which is the business community's argument about it. And this has been going on for 20 years. And so that's where it's just been a constant battle. Businesses put them up, some of them stay up, they're fine. Others, the town comes and takes them down. And so it's been going on back and forth. And so that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have a meeting. Businesses are gonna say, we want it. They're gonna say, I've been putting them up. They're gonna make threats.Ey're gonna say, the town only takes down certain ones. And
Recipe for disaster?
That's why I'm saying, we put it on the agenda.
If we have no power.
Yeah.
If we have no power to make any changes, then we probably should not be wading into that ordinance now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. We put it on
What?
the agenda.
Just piss people off.
Yeah.
Well, because the town's policy is not necessarily economically driven, and we're the Economic Development Commission, and if we have no power to do anything to help the businesses, then I don't think we should go there.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless the town's willing to listen to try to listen to the business concerns and make changes to the zoning so that I think they can't even put a sign over a certain diameter in the window. I mean, the actual regulations are pretty onerous.
Yeah, it was a terrible meeting. I mean, it was, the town came in and said, this is what you can't do, and this is what you can't do, and, here we go. What was it, 10 years ago? I mean, I remember going to that
It was
meeting.
at Woodbridge Country Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 10 years later, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And to your point, Jody, the town isn't willing to truly address it.
Mhm.
The businesses are continuing to do what they do, and I don't think we're gonna have any impact. I really-
No, I think it actually would be detrimental.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because I think we should only be hosting things that we can help, we can make a change. And if we can't, if we can't make a difference, then we have no business hosting a forum. It's just a waste of everybody's time, and it'll just get people upset.
Yeah, I agree.
So. So yes, but we'd like to work with businesses to find a solution, but that's really up to the town. So if we as the EDC can be empowered to make a change on signage, let's go there.
So how do we address that? Because it's what we do. I mean,
It's an issue. It's an issue why there's no real zoning changes. That, I mean, ideally we should have a seat at TPZ, and we should be involved in some of those decisions.
The business community would say we want a realistic A-frame regulation put on the books, and that would have to be created. We'd have to look at it, but to Jody's point, there's not much change happening. I mean, there's been attempts to improve the zoning to help the business district, and it didn't go anywhere. So that's why we're saying we're just going to beat our heads against the wall. Not
so,
get
for
it.
example, the property down in Selden that you're talking about, where all the businesses back in the bowling alley all have these A-frame signs that they put up and go away.
Okay. So
is that public property?
So to address that, and I think this is really the solution. It was wayfinding. It's why we spent so much time spending $25,000 to create a wayfinding program to say, here is a sign that we want to put on that corner to eliminate the A-frames. That was really our solution. Was, and we spent a lot of time. We spent how much time on that wayfinding commission to create and design signage that can go on that corner. And we found the location. I mean, we stood there and said, there's trees here, we can't cut trees down. Where do we best put this sign to say there's a restaurants, retail? I mean, we sent you the plan of all the different signs. But even if we do that, people are still going to put their A-frames up there. That's going to be the problem. And so the town's going to say, well, do we take them down or not? And there was A-frames up there, but then there was one business in the plaza that was not acceptable to some people, so that sign would come down, but then the other signs would stay. And so then the argument was, now you're being selective and you're picking and choosing the winners and losers that you want to promote here. And so that's where it's not being fairly enforced either, is the other problem. And so it's a TP&Z issue, it's an enforcement issue, it's representing the business. I mean, again, we can go round and round. And
so, to answer your question, unless we can see what's happening nationally. The government doesn't always work properly, and that's on the macro level. On the micro level, we have similar issues. So unless the town gets behind making these changes, we do not have any power to make any changes. So,
the town could say, we'll put up that one sign too, and show some effort to help address the wayfinding situation. And that hasn't happened either. So, and town doesn't have the money to do it. So again,
the town has to make these things a priority for us to wade into that.
Yeah.
And if the town doesn't make it a priority, then we have no power. But if the town were to say, this is something we want to do, then we can affect it.
One of the other solutions was the banners. We even talked about that through wayfinding. Like you go down through Westville, and there's those banners right down the middle of Whaley. At that point, which are Southern, and I think Southern basically took them all. Or you go through Orange, where some of the signs are orange signs, and then on the other side, these are those hanging banners. The other sign would be, XYZ Cleaners or whatever. And so we even talked about incorporating that as another solution to the A-frames, where you can't have an A-frame, but you can buy a sign, a banner. But we never fully, got town support of that. But again, we've explored a lot of these options, and that's, is it great to see these banners versus A-frames? I think that's where, we never got final ruling on that.
We also don't have the critical maths, which is another issue on that type of thing to.
Yeah, we're not Orange.
We're not Orange. We're not New Haven. They've got someone who could be just designated to handle most of that. And the change in those signs.
Mm-hmm. But we've explored it at least.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so.
No, and thank you for doing that. And then moving on, identify and focus on Woodbridge strengths, trails, West Rock, New England Brewery and Vineyard, the Darling House, farm stands, proximity to New Haven, and schools.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. I just think it's
Okay.
important for us to keep those things
absolutely.
in mind.
Yeah, I think it's, the brewery one is really interesting, to be honest. Again, I go back to it. It is a business, it's in the district. Crest, or the auto dealership is a much larger, potential taxpayer using that land, taking up a lot more space, but people don't come to Woodbridge for Crest. They come to Woodbridge for Nebco. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Nebco, I'm sorry, I don't know why I was thinking. Not just, they come from other states to Woodbridge to go to the brewery. That brewery is putting this town on the map within huge circles. Anywhere I go in state, I was up in Stafford Springs at a meeting, and we were talking about Woodbridge, and people were saying, they literally will stop. Actually, there's another meeting in Hartford, it came up twice, where, they're driving through from wherever they were on vacation to their home in another part of Connecticut, and they stop in Woodbridge to go to the brewery.
Do they come anywhere else in Woodbridge, or do they get back on the highway and
No,
leave?
because Nebco is Woodbridge, and Woodbridge, it's becoming, but I think that's where we need to, go to the next step. I agree with, how do you do that? But, that is becoming a true landmark.
Well, it's definitely a destination.
Too bad the brewery doesn't have food. If they threw in food, that would really,
They're not allowed.
it's a sad thing because it'd be, I went there one day hoping I could find something.
Well, that's
Still
why I
there
think
to
it's
drink.
really useful for them to have a brochure listing the
Yeah.
food options nearby, kind of spread the wealth a little bit, because
But-
their liquor license won't allow it.
But there's almost 100 in the state now, and they were really truly one of the pioneers in restarting that entire movement in Connecticut. I don't know how we can really harness that more, because to me, it's more than a business. It's really becoming a landmark, and
Yeah.
we need to do everything possible to help and support and keep them here. They're growing, they're expanding. What can we do to help promote them even more? Because it's more than them. It's what can we continue to
Right.
get the expansion that grows out of that. I think of Hall & Oates, one of the partners in Hall & Oates, Daryl Hall, I forget the guy who lives in Connecticut, but he opened a place just over line in New York, a music studio or music, some sort of nightclub basically. But out of that grew an entire, what were you calling them, up in New York, these micro business districts? There's some term for when you have, I'm drawing a blank on the term, but this one guy creating this one nightclub basically has grown to a much larger community where there's now B&Bs and there's other businesses that support that one business.
So, here, under the state law, is the brewery allowed to have music?
I think so. It's just that the breweries, that's why you see food trucks at so many breweries,
Right.
because they can't make and sell food.
Right. And under our zoning laws, is the brewery allowed to have music?
I think so, but they close at 9 o'clock, so it's not, they're not really that, they're not intending to be that sort of venue.
Okay.
And I don't know if they close at 9 o'clock by choice or,
By law, state
Yes, you
law.
have to, yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure.
And the parking lot is packed there on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays.
No, it's a big draw.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could leverage that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word I was thinking. How do you leverage that to support
Yeah.
the other businesses in the region?
I'm trying to think what's in that parking lot. I mean, it's behind the auto dealerships, but
So,
there's other things.
Unless,
Backs up to where DeAndrea's is.
would they open up the fence? I mean, why don't,
They can park on the other side if there's a big enough event. He has a key to open up a walk-through, but the challenge is that nobody knows you can go to that, because you can't easily get there
so
from
maybe,
here.
so maybe we need to meet with, Steve,
And I don't know what sort of
Steve,
agreement they
I'm
have,
blanking
but-
on his last name, the realtor who represents the owner of.
Steve Miller.
What?
Steve Miller.
Steve Miller. And see, like, why is that fence there? Why does it need to be there? And can we help directionalize some of the traffic there? If they take down the fence, would people actually walk into those other shopping centers?
Different landowners.
No, I think they're the same.
No,
It's
it's, that parcel's been sold now,
Okay,
so that, Crest has bought that chunk,
okay.
and the remaining is still Parati family land. So it
Okay,
is
so
separate
is New
owners
England
now.
Brewery on
On
Parati?
Crest
On
land.
It's
Crest.
not Crest land now.
And
The
they
piece
abut
that you're
Parati.
talking about is Parati land.
Yeah.
But
Right.
why would they want?
But why do you have to fence anyway?
Fence to stop the flow of
Right.
commerce?
Right.
I don't know, and I don't know who the fence belongs to. I don't know.
But you think it would be a win-win to
Right.
Yeah.
brewery people to go to the pizza place? I mean, you're
Right,
talking about
right.
food.
Unless
I
they're
mean-
worried about it becoming a cut-through,
Oh,
which is the only reason I can come up with.
So remember, when that fence was put there, it was a dealership, and then there was the DeAndrea's shopping center. So, two different parcels, two different needs. Now you have the brewery in the last 5 years, it must be, when they moved from across the street,
Yeah.
then the needs become a little different. It's a conversation.
Yeah, I can give Rob a call and see if it's something that he'd want to discuss, and if so, I could
Yeah.
talk to Steve and see what.
I mean, I'm sure the pizza place would love it if the people from the
even if
brewery.
the gate to walk through
Katz's,
was
yeah.
open, so people knew they could park there and walk through, and you couldn't drive through, but at least you could walk back and
Right.
forth.
Do we know how happy they are in their location?
The brewery?
Yeah.
I was just speaking with him yesterday. He loves Woodbridge, and
Okay.
yeah.
He
No,
was on-
it'd be
he was on the
terrible
commission
to
at one
lose
point,
the brewery, and that would be just horrible.
But he's
Yeah.
he's busting at the seams.
He is.
And power's an issue. I mean, there's, he's trying to expand the power capacity there, and that's a big operation.
Would he
Yeah,
get
perfect
get
location.
it from the utility, or would he have his own power?
No, utility, now they're
Yeah.
working with the UI to expand that, and, I don't know what additional support we can lend, but I think, yes, he was on the commission, but, does he have a direct line to town hall? Does town hall truly recognize the value that brewery is bringing to our community?
He and I were just talking about this stuff yesterday.
Good, thank you. So he has a direct
Which
line
is-
to town
is-
hall.
Yes.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And it's a good experience, so who's the next one that we can go to make sure that,
How
we
many,
have
how
those
many
lines
workers
of
do they
communication?
employ?
26?
Not that many. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of our larger employers in town. We don't have a lot of big businesses.
Right.
Did Cirque ever finish the list of the property owners? Or did they stop doing it? We were gonna get the list of the biggest taxpayers in town.
Oh, I have that, and that's what I've been using to, I have a list of 50 largest taxpayers in town, and that's what I've been using initially, at least, to decide where I'm going to do my business visits.
Can we circulate that so
Sure.
we can discuss that at the March meeting? That would be great. So, I think we've sort of touched on the next 3 items.
Well, if we want to do a business breakfast in the spring, we're not meeting again until March. Can you guys give me some direction? What topics do you want to do, or
Do you think we'd be ready to discuss signage? And that's not signage, but the wayfaring signage. By then.
Well, I mean, there's no, aside from the fact that now we're asking for money, there's no change to the design, really. I mean, what's your thought on that, Jamie? Do you feel like that's worth? I guess my concern would be.
Is we've already done it.
Is we've already done it, and like,
Okay.
why are you gonna come
Why are we
to
doing
a
it
meeting
again? Okay.
to eat a bagel and look at a sign? Or not even a real sign, a mock-up of a sign.
So I think we have an opportunity. We tried to reach out to, a couple of years ago when we were working with Platus, we reached out to the property owners in town. What we saw with the zoning is that the property owners actually wanted to have access to us, and they wanted to organize. which would allow us to have a business improvement district. Problem is, we don't have anything we're not ready
Right. We're not there yet.
to go there. But I think we have to think about cultivating that.
Well, do you think it's worthwhile to have a first breakfast meeting with the property owners and ask what their wants or needs are?
I think it would be, but I think we should have our act together a little bit more.
Okay, so that's maybe a next year breakfast.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure we're there yet, and I would, again, I don't want to be ineffective, and to say, I would like to have something that we can do for them, other than say, I don't know. But maybe we just plan a happy hour.
Okay. A spring happy hour?
A spring happy hour.
Like, well, do we want to wait until June, or do we want to try to aim for something like March or April to get the ball rolling?
Before or after tax season?
Mm-hmm.
See, I think,
April 16th?
Yeah.
I think the bowling alley's nice, but I don't see that as the summertime or springtime, beginning of summer place to host an event. You know, I'm thinking saloon outside in the patio type thing
Oh, that would
would
be
be
great.
a much
Yeah.
more friendly climate. You get to see the business district, see, the shops there. You know, if it was, 5 o'clock when, the Red Barn still might be open and Right Approach might be open type thing. Nothing against the bowling alley, I just think the timing has to be right for
Right.
that type of thing.
But if we're talking about doing something earlier, like March or April,
But you said they have their leagues going on.
yeah,
That
I
was-
don't think she'd be able to
Yeah.
host us that time of year. But I guess my question is the location more important, or is the timing more important? If we wanted to do March, April, we'd go somewhere else. But if we wanted to do the bowling alley, June's really the earliest you could accommodate.
She has a league at 5 o'clock every night?
Yeah,
Wow, impressive.
yeah,
That place is packed, you can't even get a parking spot in
yeah.
there.
They're doing really well.
Are they pulling people from outside of Woodbridge?
From all over, really.
Mm.
Yeah.
So conceptually, can you do a happy hour at the Right Approach Saloon area outside? Take advantage of part of the parking lot, have saloon sell, let's say, alcohol, maybe outside, and bring in 1 or 2 food trucks? Although
They
we'd have
want to do the food.
Yeah.
It's their business.
And sort of, okay, let them do the food and do a sidewalk sale type of thing.
Yeah. That would be
And so
nice.
the businesses are active and,
So like, I'm trying to figure out timing, so that sounds like more like a June,
well, it's gotta be light out, so.
right.
You do it at 6 o'clock
Maybe May.
in May,
Okay.
5 to 7.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
It's like a May happy hour at Saloon.
It's alone with buy-in.
But
from the
everything's
other businesses.
outside, and
Yeah.
Yeah, if weather permitting. of course.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Ellen and Red Right Approach, they do a sidewalk sale type
Yeah.
thing,
so who do you have? You have Right Approach, you have Ellen, and those are the only
You get
retailers
free
in the,
Botox.
what?
All the plastic surgeons, I said free
I think you could
Botox.
have free Botox.
Sorry, I
And
said
then
the hammer.
upstairs, Kate's there.
Kate's there.
Is there anything upstairs?
That's, the dentist, Kate, fitness.
It's more office, less retail.
There's investment advisor at the corner. The educational consultant is upstairs, I think.
We can invite them down to present their wares or something.
Cottage industry. That was the word I was thinking of earlier, with the breweries.
So I guess if you can find out what night of the week works best for Saloon.
Yeah, it's usually like a Tuesday or Wednesday. So we'll hold off on a breakfast.
I think we hold off on a breakfast until we have something we want to discuss. That we know that we can commit.
I think, if the business district knew that we were, again, gathering twice a year just for networking purposes, that's still adding value
Yeah.
Yeah.
to the community.
Okay.
Okay.
So, we don't have a quorum, so we can't approve the minutes, nor can we approve the meeting schedule. So our next meeting will be in March and will be a special meeting, March 28th. And hopefully we'll have a quorum then. Can you reach out to our latest member who has never
I've
actually
emailed
attended?
him.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Do we still have an opening too? Or are we full?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that.
Is it 9, 8 or 9?
What?
Still get confused.
I think, no, we're 8.
Okay, so
We
1,
were
2, 3,
incorrectly
4,
9 at
5,
one
6,
point, but
7.
we're.
No, then
I-
we don't have an opening.
Okay.
But we might have an opening, because maybe this gentleman just doesn't want to be on it since he's never attended.
Oh, wait, his name's not on the list, so that, oh, no, there it is. Yeah, no, there, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, no, you're right, he's never been here, but that's the 8 of us.
Yeah,
We haven't seen Mike in a while.
yeah.
Either. 1, 2,
Okay. So, maybe if you can reach out to Mike as well, Betsy, and see. Can I get a motion to adjourn at 8:35?
No, you can't, because we don't have a quorum.
We can't even make a motion to it? We can't adjourn? We have to stay here all night? All right.
We'll be in session until March.
Okay. It's